मन जाकर राखो जी गिरिधारी लाल मन जाकर राखो जी
Episode 20. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat. We have been talking about the subject of Atman, and we spoke about it in our last discourse, slok number 17. We will start this episode with slok 18. This subject matter is little difficult for us because we do not have much experience, we do not understand it, we are so used to seeing things through our senses, our intellect and our ego. So we will have to be little patient. We have said that this God or Atman that we are talking about is within us. It is the center of our existence and the center of the existence of the whole universe. It provides us peace, joy and bliss. It is eternal happiness. It's deathlessness, as we just said, immortality. It provides us fearlessness and free from sorrow. Freedom from all changes, that is death itself. And also it frees us from anger, lust and greed that always rides us and causes us the suffering. So certainly it is a subject matter of our great interest, for that is what all of us are looking for. We also notice that in truth, presentation, there are no gimmicks. Shri Krishna Bhagavan uses no gimmicks. He does not count on superstitions of Arjuna, his weaknesses. He doesn't take advantage of his superstitions that he talked about heaven and other things. There are no deceptions or given any false hopes. There is no corruption of any kind in delivering this message. That is the beauty of truth. Saints never take advantage or encourage our weaknesses. They don't believe in magics, miracles and mirages. These toys and bubbles causes a lot of pain and suffering. As we know, recently the stock market bubble, they say, bursted, and what caused us the pain. We don't want life like a bubble, imaginary thing, and all of a sudden we find that it bursted and here we are left with nothing. So when we talk and we meditate on this subject, we are all going to gain. Some will gain more than others, but there is no loss in this path. There is no end to it. It's not going to run out. It is infinite, and it is available to us in any quantity we want. It's like an ocean. Depending on how big your gagar or pot is, you can fill it. You can even become as large as the ocean. You can become as big or as infinite as God Himself. And that is the beauty of it, so that each one has our own path cut out, our aspirations. The difference between body and Atman we are talking about, if we look at it today, we are meditating on the incident of 9/11. It is about a year today, and we see that the body and Atman is what we are talking about. The towers disappeared in few minutes. The towers are like body, but the spirit of the American people The spirit of the New York citizens did not die. And that is what we are talking about. It is the spirit we are talking about, not the bodies. They did say that we can restructure these bodies or towers again and again. They will die, but our spirit will not die. I remember some of the wise men making such statements, and I hope they certainly mean, and we want to inspire people that whatever dies, there is a spirit behind that does not die. But this is exactly what we are trying to say. There is another difficulty also when people ask how do we recognize Atman, how do we recognize Guru, how do we recognize Saint, how do we recognize Mirabai or Jesus or God or Krishna. That is a good question. Recognition is not that simple because it is beyond the senses, so we will have to go beyond the senses. In short, we will have to become that particular person mentally in order to know or understand that person. I remember Jagdish Chandra Bose, who was an expert on botany, and when somebody questioned him about his achievements, uh, he says, to know all about the plants, and he was a botanist, I myself became a plant mentally. So unless we become a plant, we won't understand the plant. Unless we become Mirabai, we are not going to understand Mirabai. Unless we become Sri Krishna, we will not understand Sri Krishna. Unless we become God, we will not we understand God. So that means God alone understands God. Mira alone understands Mira. And plant alone understands plant. So then we have something in us, whether it is Mirabai or God, is in us. That is what we call Atman, the truth, the love. What is Mirabai? Nothing but love. It is ultimate love. And if we have the love, so if we become love, we become Mirabai, because Mirabai is not a body or a woman or a physical identity, but it is love. So God is love and we have love. So there is a hope that we can realize all these identities. Is not a impossible thing to become Mira, but it is not physically becoming Mira, it is mentally and even beyond mental, spiritually. So we are always talking about when we say we want to recognize a person, we must become that person. In other words, we must concentrate, we must learn about it, we must practice as much as possible, and then slowly and slowly we will come close to that love which is within us, that Mirabai is within us, and that as we approach, we are becoming that. So let's try to clear up the difficulty or the confusion that when you become God does not mean physically you are becoming God, but that God is a form of love is within us, and that is approachable. There are ways and means which we are going to learn, and then we can say we have become love, we have become God. Right now we are only body oriented. We are more aware of the physical phenomena, so that physical phenomena cannot be identical. Two bodies are never alike. Two bodies cannot even merge. They are always separate and separating, because by nature all physical entities and elements have a nature of separation. They cannot be combined. And so, since they are constantly passing away anyway, and yet we try to combine bodies, but they don't. So, the only combination that we can hope for is love, is Atman. And therefore, if we want to unite with others, and that is what we really want, we want unity, we don't want the separation, nobody likes separation. So, what we are looking for in bodies is not possible in bodies, but it is possible in Atman, and that is within us. So, I think that if we can remember this, it will be very helpful to us that Atman can be realized only by removing Anatman. In other words, if gold has to be pure, everything impure in gold has to be removed. So if we have any obstacles, if we remove the obstacles, then we will see the Atman. We cannot bring the sun into observance, because sun is already existing, but the clouds have covered it. Clouds of ignorance has covered it. If we can remove those clouds, sun is already there. It was always there for us to see. We, out of our ignorance or blindness, brought the clouds of confusion, and since we brought it, we can also remove it. That is another beautiful thing God has given us, that if we have created a mess or a problem, we are always capable to remove that mess or problem, and we can be back to that original pristine position that we had before we came into this world or came into this confusion and difficulties or frustration or whatever we are going through. We don't have to go through that. So human being is endowed with the power. Look at the beauty. We said in the early discourses that human life is most valuable. It has come after many, many births and difficulties. It is invaluable, and this is the reason why it is invaluable, that we can realize God within us, and that is the greatest thing that anybody could do. Now, sometimes I heard and noticed that some of the people who listen to this, what we have been expounding during last 30 years, have expressed that it is very difficult to understand or grasp. But there is one beautiful slok in Katha Upanishad which I want to remind you so that we don't get discouraged. But the facts, as I said, there are no gimmicks and deceptions. Saints have said again and again, and Katha Upanishad is the one that can be almost called mother of Gita. So in that Katha Upanishad it is said, Shravanaya api bahubhihi yaha na labhyaha शृण्वन्त अपि बहवयं न विद्युः आश्चर्यवक्ता कुशलस्य लब्धा आश्चर्यज्ञाता कुशलम अनुशिष्टः. What it says is that there are very few who even gets this opportunity to hear this. And even after hearing this, they really don't know what they are hearing. Wonderful is the speaker who may be clever and he has obtained this knowledge, and those who even can receive this, they are also expert, and we can be very proud of them. In other words, the teachers are rare, the listeners are the rare, and it is not very easy to understand what we are talking about, because as we say, it is beyond the intellect, and we are always talking about understanding through intellect or ego, and these are really the obstacles rather than a help. Such being the helpless situation in which we are, we still are not helpless, because saints have shown us the path that in spite of all these obstacles, we can realize what we are after, true peace and joy. Now, I think we'll move on to slok 18. We, I think, left out last time slok number 17 we completed. Antavanta ime deha nityasya yukta sharirinaha anashinaha aprameyasya tasmad yuddhasva bharata. Now our immediate concern of Sri Krishna is that Bharata means the head of the army, who is Arjuna, and he says that these bodies are endless, they are never going to die. Nityasya ukta sharirinaha. In other words, this Atman who has taken this body, they are of course destructible, they will come to an end, they are ever changing, but the Atma is ever changeless. And so you learn the distinction between the two, that in reality you are Atman, you are indestructible, you are immeasurable, you are beyond the senses, you cannot be conceived. Such is your power. So best thing is for you to know this is fight. Not what are you going to fight. We are not talking about fighting the individuals. We are talked here about the fighting of lust and greed and ego. We are going to say this time and time again so that we don't misunderstand that by fighting the outer enemies we are going to realize this. I think our greatest war is our inner ignorance and our ego. So when he is talking about fighting Duryodhan, we are talking about fighting the vices of Duryodhan that reside within us. That Duryodhan is not outside but within us. That Ravan is within us. The devil is within us. And so we should never be thinking about fighting with the outside person or even arguing, but rather we should always point our finger to ourselves that all these vices can be within me, they might be in me, they are in me, and I want to do the best. Lord is telling me to fight these enemies within me like Duryodhana and Ravan. But the beautiful thing here, it is said that it is beyond conception. So it will be wise that we don't use these arguments or intellect or even try to understand. Then why are we listening this? If I am saying that don't try to understand through intellect. Well, all we are saying is use your intellect as much as you can if it is purified, but we will have to go beyond your intellect. And the next thing we need is faith. So if you have faith, then I think you have a very good chance. Let the intellect be used as much as it can, but don't get wound up to a point where you never come out of the argument, doubts, suspicion, and all these things. Then there is absolutely no chance, because then you are not ready. Your sanskars tell you that you will have to do some more purification and come to a stage of faith. Without faith, no realization. Mirabai had faith right from birth about Girdhar, that it is a God I want to marry and that is it. Such faith alone carries us. So those who don't have faith, there is no possibility for them to realize God. Now we are not talking about blind faith, we are not talking that just accept everything. We have been, as a matter of fact, utilizing all the wisdom, even the discrimination, whatever efforts and tools that we have in front of us. But what we are saying is that these tools are not enough. God is beyond the tools. Use them and throw away. Just like if you want to climb the roof of the house, you need a ladder. You climb on the ladder, you get on the top of the roof, and then leave the ladder. Similarly, so the ladder or intellect was useful, but then once you have made use of it, then don't go back to it, otherwise you will fall. You have no reason to come down once you have reached that highest point. So, all these things, the false works that we are talking about, the body, mind, and intellect, are useful to construct the permanent structure which is Atman. I know, being a civil engineer, we build a lot of bridges and buildings, and we do need false work. Sometimes we even dig into holes for going deep into foundation, about 100 feet deep. And sometimes we wonder that while we want to build structure that should be going up in the sky, while we are spending years going down into the hole. So, well, this is the truth. Sometimes when we take this path of reality, we feel that we are getting nowhere. As a matter of fact, we are going even negative. We are in the mud and water. And in building the Golden Gate, we know that a lot of people died even during the construction of foundation. Going into the bottom of the ocean and even below that another 100 feet into the rock is not a small affair. But then we are so eager, we want it badly, then we are capable to build such structures as Golden Gate. Then we have the same ability, we are willing to die for it. We will be diving into the water, into the mud, but look at the courage. Look at the ability of human being. If we can do that, and if we have the same courage and even fearlessness that even if we die, we are not going to give up the structure, we will do it. Similarly, imagine the bridge we are trying to build from this shore to the other shore, as Buddha Bhagavan said, that having reached the other shore, you will never want to come back. Sometimes I feel the same way when I cross the Golden Gate from San Francisco going into the Marine County, I suppose, I don't know the names of those areas. But as I go north and into the woods and all, I feel so fine and wonderful that I never want to come back. I just stay there. Similarly, we will feel that once we have built this bridge of truth, we'll never want to come back. Reaching a point where we never want to come back is our goal. This coming back and going and coming, as we have said in one of the slok, is our problem that causes us tiredness. We get tired, our energy is lost, our financial things are also lost. We get tired of these things. So we want to reach the other shore from which we don't want to come back. And that is what we have been trying. But that bridge that we are trying to build, we will have to pay the price. There is nothing without price. We should be willing to even die. Most of the saints have said, Hari no marag che sura no nahi kayar no kam jone. The path of Hari, the path of love that Mirabai is talking about, is a path where nobody is going to agree with you, nobody may like you, nobody will cooperate with you. Not only that, they may even give you poison, they may even insult you without any real reason, but we'll have to bear with all that. That is what I was talking about, building the foundation of that golden gate. In the mud we live, and in the mud we still have to come out of it. It's like a kamal patra, the lotus leaf that has to come out and still remain untouched by the mud and the water. This is possible. Gita has said that we have been talking about giving examples that we know of, so we should not get discouraged. But let's build this bridge. Let's build this golden gate. This is a golden gate. Gold is always described as the ultimate metal, and our goal is ultimate. So that is why we say that golden gate means this golden opportunity and bridging once and for all from the misery of this life of phenomena or the phenomenon world into a life that is eternal, where we never have to come back and never have to suffer and never have to go through the wombs of the mother and hang upside down for 9 months, causing pain to ourselves and our mother. I think this is what the saints are saying. There is a better way where we don't need to do that, but then this is the process we have to go through. Suffering sometimes is a good teacher, but a wise man doesn't want to suffer, because suffering is not something that we enjoy. God has put not too much happiness in suffering. I suppose he knew that might be the only way you suffer, and you don't like suffering. There are sometimes people like suffering. We are so addicted to drinking and drugs and other aspects, smoking, that we suffer and we still love it. We cannot give up. So we are really capable to break the laws of Lord as much as possible, but we know that we cannot transcend it too long. Someday we'll get tired of this. Even we may die of that bad habits or addiction, and in next life maybe we'll remember that those are not the good thing, and we'll start out on a better foot or on a right foot instead of on the left foot. So suffering is good if it teaches us. Good experience is good if we don't forget that there are others who are also suffering and we need to help them. The life is a lesson. Life is a learning field. Dharma kshetra, as we have said, and Kurukshetra. We all have an opportunity, as we have said, and so try to benefit, pull together our resources, our courage. Be a little humble, because without humility we are not going to advance. We are not going to be able to understand this thing. And don't try to understand by intellect. Have faith and be patient, as he says. Bear with it. People who have continued this abhyas or listening have realized it sooner or later. Under no condition you want to give up this path once we have decided that this is the route I want to go. So Lord has then told Arjun to fight. We have to fight. Life is a battle, and battle is of course within us, and we must never give it up. Yaha enam vetti antaram yachenam manyate hatam ubhau tau na vijanita nayam hanti nanyate. Slok number 19 tells us that those who think that this Atman is the killer, or that Atman can be killed, then both of them do not really know that Atma does not kill nor can be killed by anyone else. Now this incident is told because Arjuna at the moment might be worried that he is going to be killed, or his enemies, or his Bhishma Pitama and his teacher, his relatives, people he loves, his friends. So his main concern right now is being killed or killing somebody else. And so Lord is reminding him that we are all Atmans, and that Atma never kills, and therefore a principle of non-violence. If we are non-violent, that is, non-violence means love. You cannot be non-violent unless you have a love for the person or for the world that is created. So, non-violence is the quality of Atman, and therefore we should live as much non-violent as possible. It is the violence that creates all the trouble, these terrors we are talking about, the terrorists or terrorism. I think that we should go deep down and not superfluously look, but we will find that most of us are terrorists in one form or the other. If a person steals $500 from a bank and if that robber is caught by the police, he would be called a thief. Police will take him to the court and put him in the jail for doing something not right. And yet we know that the CEOs and the politicians and all other people in this world are stealing in millions and billions, and we don't even know that they are stealing, and yet we don't do anything about it. So we want to wonder about who is the real thief, who may be a poor guy who doesn't have food to eat, and he may have stolen a few dollars to eat, and there are people who have billions of dollars and they're still stealing and even not letting people know that they are the thugs or the terrorists. So when we think about terrorism or problems in life, we must always go deeper into the root cause where it all started. And amazingly, we are not going to find very easily where it started. It is so confusing. It is like a tree. It is a jar. It is a net. It's a network. We don't know where it starts and where it ends. It is just like our computers, www. Nobody knows where it starts and where it ends, and all of us are the victim of it or we are in it. Sometimes we take advantage, sometimes we are confused. So before we brand somebody as a thief or something, we want to see that those good looking guys who might be CEOs, see if they are honest. So always look at the intention of the person rather than some actions. Of course, we don't condone or we don't want to approve any stealing. Even if you are starving, stealing is not the way. But what we are saying is that sometimes the small guys get caught and we blame them, while the big guys who are controlling us are constantly stealing, and they might be the cause of our poverty to begin with. That they might be robbing our hard work in the factory, collecting money, and we hardly get enough money to eat. This inequality also in the world has caused a lot of problems. There should be no inequality. God says that all of us are here to help each other. We are not here to become rich. We are not here to show off our intelligence or our dancing capability or our singing capacity. But all this art that God has given us is to be used for the good of the world. And that can be done only if we are not after ego, name and fame, vanity, but unfortunately that's what we are. So we are misusing what God has given us, whether it is a body that a prostitute misuses or whether it is a singer who is charging $10,000 for a song. I don't think we are much different. It is just we are using whatever opportunity we have, whatever equipment we have. So when we examine the fundamentals of it, we will find that we are all corrupt, and unless we go towards God and unless we use everything we have, like Mirabai or Gandhiji, to offer our abilities and our wealth, particularly our intelligence and everything, for the good of the world. This is what God is recommending. It is not for us. We won't last too long, and then we will be wondering that not only we deceived others, but we deceived ourselves, and we lost such a beautiful human birth. So if we can recoup and if we want to understand Atma, if we want to really enjoy life, let us realize that we are here not to cheat others, not to show our superiority, whether we are intelligent or not, whether we have gone to Harvard, Berkeley, or Stanford, or whether we are millionaires. We are here as a representative of God. He has given us this equipment to help those who are poor, who need our help, whether it is knowledge, it is spiritual knowledge, and yet we collect everything for our own self, and then we find that ultimately we turn into ashes, and we may have to regret that we lost out such a beautiful opportunity we had to help others and realize Atman or realize love. We can never realize love without giving love to others first. That is the principle. Don't wait that if somebody loves me, then I will love them. Go ahead and start helping, go ahead and start loving, sacrifice your life, and you will be amazed, you will be realizing Atman or God, you will become God. So sacrifice is a very good investment, it is the only investment. We will have to sacrifice our life itself. That is what the saints have been saying. They have sacrificed. Look at the sacrifice of Mirabai, Mahatma Gandhi, and all the saints, Jesus Christ and all, as we are, Buddha was a king and he sacrificed everything and all the pleasures, the physical, intellectual, and otherwise. So they have, through experience, found that sacrifice and dedication and helping others is the way. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat.